Pressure Washing Institute. Here with Jerry McMillan, guys, from pressurewasher.net, Bulldog Pro, Scirocco Power Washers. What else do you have, Jerry? Did I miss anything?
That covers it.
That covers it. We're here tonight to talk about something. You guys saw the title. Nobody wants to talk about this until it happens to them. I'm going to share a couple of my stories with you. I'm going to let Jerry start the show off, and he's going to start off with these photos right here, Jerry. Talk to them a little about these and tell these guys what happened, and let's tell them how they can prevent this stuff.
Okay, I can't see the image that you're showing, by the way. But that's the okay. Here's the thing. There's so many aspects of environmental health and safety that
I got the gasoline and I got the cut wrist. You said that was chemical burns, the wrist.
okay. All right. So there's so many aspects of environmental safety, environmental health and safety that don't get discussed. It's time for us to really start a major program and let this be a little bit of a kickoff. Okay. Um, as there's so many people out there using bleach, there's been all kinds of images and discussion about injuries using chemicals and bleach. I don't need to go into a bunch of detail on this stuff because you guys know that bleach is a severe hazard. And it's so easy for a cheap hose to blow out and spray bleach all over you that you guys really need to get serious about this. Okay. Number one, stop buying cheap hose just because it's the cheapest hose you can get. A hose that's rated for 700 psi is a better hose than it's rated for 600 or 500 or 400 psi. Just because you only have 100 psi going through it doesn't mean you can always rely on that hose to never spring a leak. If it springs a leak at 100 psi and does $1,000 worth of damage on somebody's prize-winning roses, then that's a problem. Okay, and if you're running a booster pump or one of the new Comet, diaphragm pumps or whatever, and you're getting 200 psi or whatever, and it spews and you're doused with the chemical, that's a really bad day. Oh, and by the way, you might go blind. What are you thinking about when you buy cheap hose? Is it always the money? Is that the way your life is going to be run right now? You're exposing yourselves to major issues. Okay, let's move along to handling of gasoline, for example. Okay, the image of the black race can, inside of an enclosed trailer, that was in our shop just yesterday and today. And when I went out there and saw the gas can there, I also noticed that there's no fire extinguisher in sight. All those chemicals are in the doors. There's a side door with chemicals hanging on the side. There's no fire extinguisher in sight.
Can I
Okay,
elaborate on this one, Jerry?
please do.
You know I got a story on this one. I was going to say, Jerry, if we don't include that they need a fire extinguisher, not only on the unit itself, you need a fire extinguisher on the unit itself. You also need a spare in the vehicle behind the seat.
Absolutely,
You you you
absolutely.
must you must have that. And don't think you're going to put the fire out with your pressure washer because that's what's going to be on fire. Okay, I mean
Right.
that's why guys all the time tell me that stuff. But I'm not going to elaborate on this story because it's a horrific story, but it's not a call you want to get. There was a guy at the time. This was earlier on in my career, about 10 years in. About 8 years to be exact, and I was fleet washing. And this gentleman, I put 5 competitors in business, and this guy was a friend of mine. Most of my guys that work for me, that even were competitors, one of my best friends is still one of my best friends, and he's in business still. I never have had a problem with that. I built 5 guys, 5 competitors. They're all friendly. This guy is no longer with us. And I'm going to tell you the story. The call came about 3 o'clock in the morning from his wife. He had just went off on his own. He got his own box truck. He had one of those machines that I don't want to tell you, but it's the yellow ones. When they first came out, they were portables, okay? And they were minis. And the gas tank on the specific motor was white, so we all know what it was, about approximately, I think, about 11 horses or somewhere around there. So that tells you what we're leaving brand names out. There's a big lawsuit on this, Jerry. I don't know if you remember it or not, but they used a gas can to fill this machine. This machine was hot. He had no chance to get out of the box truck. It exploded. Okay. When he went to go pour the gasoline in there, he had already had combustible fumes inside the box truck. So when he went and caused the spark, the truck just ignited and blew to pieces. I got that call that he was dead on arrival. And from that day forward, we don't have gas cans. Now, they sell fuel cells and they're great. And they're better than gas cans. You have portable marine tanks. They're better than gas cans. Okay. Myself, I went after that accident happened. It was not my guy. It was a guy who went off on his own that used to work for me, and he was a very good friend. After that happened, I went and saw it. You know what? We've got to vent these tanks outside the vehicles. We've got to, even in the open trailers, we've got to just make a better system. And I was fortunate. I had a guy in my city that was called Custom Made Tanks. Dave, he's no longer around. He's also passed away since then. But he made me dual fuel tanks with diesel and gasoline. And I'll tell you, not that it only saved me the heartache of ever receiving that call myself after 37 years in business, but the other thing that it did, it saved me money. It saved me time. We know, Jerry, you don't have to fuel up as often, right? If you have 25 gallons in each tank,
right,
you save a lot of time. You save the heartache of theft, because I'm going to tell you something, guys. When you have gas cans and you have employees and you notice the fuel bill looks a little wonky, well, guess what? 5 gallons is going in your machine and 5 gallons is going in their personal vehicle. And I'm telling you, that's just going to happen. It's going to happen. If you have gas cans, are just entertaining the thought of, hey, man, I'll fill this extra can up while I'm at the gas station and I'll take it home after work,
Right.
And are you going to know? No, you're not. That's my story, Jerry.
Right on. Regarding the trailer, okay, on the tongue of that trailer is a nice little slot that I'm going to talk to the customer about tomorrow morning when he comes to pick it up. What I want to do is I want to make a little cabinet right there, a cage style cabinet that he can put his fuel can in and lock it up, but have it outside of the enclosure. That's the best we can do. If I can't talk him into an actual fillable external tank that's secure. It's going to be one or the other.
Talk him into that tank, Jerry, and a $70 fuel pump, and he'll never have to worry about that ever again. And if he can't put it on the tongue, put it inside and vent the tank out and fill it up on the outside,
Yep.
But so many, how many of these stories you and I have seen on the internet? The guy's driving the box truck down the road. I don't remember. It was Jim Van Halen, right? And he was on fire and he didn't even know it, right? I mean, he's falling behind and he looks back and his whole box truck's engulfed in flames. He has to pull over in time and get out of the truck. We've had numerous trailers that have just combusted. I mean, gas cans are just not very nice, especially when they're enclosed. There's guys that burned down dealerships with them that I know that were inside of dealerships. They're trying to fill up inside. By the way, let's enlighten them on this. It is against OSHA regulations to have a gasoline powered anything with gas cans in an industrial setting. Most people don't even know that. They don't even know that. Therefore, all these garage guys, John Tornabene, he's going to be pissed off at me. Technically, on these enclosed garages, Jerry, you're not supposed to be in there with that gas-powered equipment. You're not.
Right.
That's why they build diesel units and propane units.
Now, let's let's move along in this because we've got some other stuff to cover. But I
Okay.
want to say one more thing on the gas cans. I am making hanging brackets to put 22, 23 gallon fuel cells underneath the bed of a flatbed and hang them right underneath there. Easy access, not a big deal. That's also an easy way to get gasoline stolen from you. But hey, if you can secure your vehicle and you want to have it outside of the box, it can be under the bed instead of in the enclosure if you want it that way. Otherwise, building tanks into the underbelly of a truck is not difficult to do. We've done several different configurations of metal tanks. You know, do something more than allowing an exposure problem. Okay. If you've got an engine that has a fuel tank on top of it and you want to have an electric fuel pump going from a tank that's exterior or remote, it's easy to put an electric fuel pump on those things. I've got kits that I can send out for doing this kind of stuff, but plan the outcome. The outcome needs to be you got lots of fuel. You only have to fill up once a week. It's in a safe place. Nobody can just poke a hole in it and drain it out when you're not looking. I mean, plan the outcome for the best possible outcome. Just like planning to never have a leak on your doggone bleach hoses or the bleach tank. Plan for secondary containment.
Here's the 4 images that I have up. I have the guy in the bucket pressure washing, a soffit on a house. I've got the one rig that looks like the rig from hell. He's got everything and his brother on the thing. The one, I don't know if you remember that picture.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
I've got, it might be that same rig over a fence. I don't know. That might be the same. No, that's a tandem axle. One of them went over a rolled and went over a wall.
Right.
And here we go. We know just recently we had some colleagues of ours, their employees in a rollover died because why? Because these vehicles, they're loading half-ton trucks, they're making the fluids with these high tanks, and what happens? They're asking for a rollover. Any kind of
heavy is bad, tail heavy is bad. There's a lot of things to consider in planning the outcome. You really need a technical guy to ensure that you're covering things that you're not experienced in. You can be the best cleaner on the planet and not have enough experience in the details of machinery and trailers and these other, let me tell you something. When somebody brings in a trailer to my service department to be serviced, we have a check-in fee. And it's more expensive for a trailer because I'm going to do a safety check on your damn trailer and I'm going to charge you for it when you drop it off for me to work on the pressure washer. It is what it is. I can't let you leave with an unsafe trailer. And if you didn't know it was unsafe before you brought it in, I'm going to let you know that it's unsafe before you leave. And I'm going to make you sign that you're taking the thing away knowing that the bearings are about to split apart or your spring has got a defective bracket or whatever. We're doing a safety check on that and we're going to charge you for doing it because you don't know everything about equipment just because you're a cleaner. It is what it is. It's a race against time, guys. You need to go fast and get stuff done. You always have to bounce this thing down the road through the rain, sleet, or hail. You need everything full performance when you open the gun, and you need the rapid elimination of downtime. But if you don't bring spare parts, if you don't know what can break, if you don't have access to a technical guy that can explain the details to you for the just in case and planning the outcome, you don't have a complete team in the race against time. There is that.
Jerry, I got a question here. It is safety has slapped me in the face twice, at least in the last 2 weeks. Small ladder fell off the truck. Hose blew inside the truck. Got a switch on the burner wet and started electrical fire. Thankfully, no injuries. The machine's already been repaired. But this is a timely discussion. Finally, we talk about safety. Oh, here we go.
What?
Xavier, how you doing, Mister Safety himself here? Guy worked for OSHA for years, Jerry. We
Cool.
need to get Xavier. Maybe we get Xavier on a show here in the future.
Sure.
Yeah, guys, it's a big deal. It really is, and you got to make things simple, man. And
Let's go.
I wanted to add one thing, Jerry, about the chemical thing. Guys are just using chemicals, and I'm just going to keep saying this. They're just using chemicals because they think, well, first of all, the ones that are made for our industry that are engineered safely and that are very expensive, they're actually cheap. But the guys don't understand they're selling a gallon of chemical that will concentrate in sometimes into a 55-gallon drum. They're selling you that chemical for $65 a gallon because you don't want to buy 55 gallons of fluid and have it sent to your doorstep,
Right.
because it's going to cost a lot more in shipping. And a lot of guys don't understand that when they're buying these professionally grade chemicals, they're overusing them. And they don't even understand that when you're talking about a high alkaline degreaser and you're mixing it with water, stronger chemical solution doesn't necessarily make it work better. It was engineered to be in there at 8 ounces per 5 gallons of water, not a half a gallon per 5 gallons of water. And everybody always thinks that this means it's going to work better because they always assume when they use more, something's going to work better. Yes, when you have a watered down chemical that comes to you and you use more, it's going to work better. But when you have a concentrated chemical, you need to follow the directions for it to work properly, and it drives me nuts. And my point in this whole thing is these store-bought chemicals will work. They're great. I've used them in a pinch, okay? But Purple Power is poisonous. It's to be used in a garage floor and be contained in a sanitary drain, not put out on somebody's back porch where their pets, their dogs, and everything is, and you're rinsing this stuff off into their landscaping. That's not what it was intended for, okay? It was intended for an industrial interior type use in an automotive shop. That's what it was designed for. And lo and behold, these big box stores now, because it's such a great name and such a good brand, everybody's selling it everywhere, and everybody thinks because, wow, it's a cheap degreaser, let's use that.
Ron, I want your help with this, but the next discussion, I'm going to do a talk next time on what chemicals are what and how they work. A little known fact is that I actually was developing a chemical line when I got into this business. I started my company on blending chemicals. Where I left off was where I had so many more people asking me about machines, and I was going into rust removal, which was going to be a whole bunch of research. And F9 picked up exactly where I left off and has created a wonderful product line. But the point that I'm making here is the community needs, and this is also going to be timely, that they need to know what these different kinds of chemicals do. How chemicals work is going to change the way you think when you use chemicals, and how you mix them, and what you do and don't use with heat. But we'll do it our next talk on chemicals. How about that?
I like it.
All right, so let's
move on. Chemicals is part of safety, right? But I mean, you're right.
Yes.
We could go off on a 35 or 45 or 2-hour show on it.
Yeah. Well, let's move along with equipment safety right now.
All right. Okay. I've got the harebrained video or the image up of the loaded down. Everything's everywhere on the equipment. The guy's got cords and hoses hanging all over. Which other one do you want up?
Okay, I did a whole nother video, and I'll attach it to this one once it's posted. Okay, so you can see my walkthrough of all of the stuff gone wrong on that trailer. They've got chemicals next to the exhaust of the engine. They've got a hose hanging off with bungee cords. The trailer is obviously overloaded with all the water. What was holding the tank down was not nearly enough that it could hold it on if he took too hard of a turn. I mean, everything was gone wrong on that trailer. Nothing was right. The way the pressure washer was mounted, it's a disaster. That entire trailer concept is a disaster. But a couple of things that I want to move along with is when you have so much stuff, so many things stuffed onto a trailer and into confined spaces. One of the things that we lose track of is the electrical. And when you squish a wire with something metal, it's eventually going to wear through. Remember, we're bouncing this stuff down the road just like an off-road race, okay? And things will wear through. And if they're not tied up, if they're not protected, I mean, look at the trailers that I built, and you'll see what we call abrasion resistors around all kinds of things. I took a picture of a hose reel where the hose goes through the side of the reel, and if it's not laid just right, it can lay up against sharp edges, and you end up with a blown hose just because it was laying against the side of the reel. So we take a piece of larger plastic hose and zip tie it over the high pressure hose where it's going to lay across the corner of a frame or the edge of a reel, or it's just going around a corner that looks rough. And, you know, protect the hoses with an outer skin of 1/8 inch thick hose, and it'll take that much longer for it to wear through. But you still got to check these things. Wherever a hose is laying across anything or on the ground, just laying where it loops down and hits the ground and comes up to a heater, for example, if it can touch the ground, every day as it's bouncing down the road, there's an abrasion that's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until it finally just blows. If you're not looking for the abrasions or looking for where a hose can wear, you're not paying attention to the outcome. And oh, wait a minute. In the race against time, a blown hose is downtime for how long? Until you find a hose repair? What if you're on that route going all around the state doing all those Chick-fil-A's or all those banks or whatever, and your guy is on the road and the next thing you know, he's got a blown hose? Do you know where the hose repair facilities are on your route? I'll bet you don't. That's not planning the outcome. Planning the outcome would be on your route, knowing where every Walmart, okay, because they got oil, don't they? They got oil for your blower. They got oil for your engines. They got carburetor cleaner for troubleshooting your engine. I mean, they got that hitch, that hitch wire that got destroyed because it wasn't connected and it drug along the. Go get you a new one at Walmart. Along your route, you need to know where the Walmart is. You need to know where the hose repair places are. You know where to know the pressure washer service center. Oh my, you might need some quick couplers or some nozzles. Okay, you sure don't want to have to pay them for a repair, but at least you can go there and buy a couple of nozzles. All right, you need to know where these places are, because in the middle of the night or along the way, you need to be able to get stuff done. And if you don't have that cell phone number for the service manager, or if you don't have the account number for your Grainger store, then you can't open the Grainger store for $50 and buy some more hose or some V-belts to get back on the road again. Guys, in order to plan the outcome, you need to understand what's available for smart people. What's available for smart people involves getting technical information from people that can help you with where those guys are. You know, if you need to buy a, whatever. If you need to buy an electric fuel pump for your engine, you need to know that there's a generic one available at every auto parts store. You just need to know how to ask for it. Otherwise, the guy at the counter is going to go, what make and model of your car and does it have windshield wipers or not. Okay. How embarrassing is it for you to stand there and listen to him say something stupid like that when you didn't realize that what you're asking for is the most generic electric fuel pump he has. Just make sure you get the low pressure version that goes to 4 psi, not the 7 psi version that's going to overload your fuel injection fuel pump or whatever. And there is also a generic fuel pressure regulator. Spend the $29.50 and get the one that's going to protect your system, because we're trying to plan the outcome. Okay, environmental health and safety is that much detail, stuff that you don't know you're qualified. You don't have the qualifications to plan for.
I got a couple of statements, Jerry,
Huh.
and one of them is from Xavier. Jerry, I've helped develop standard operating procedures. If you need support, overall training needs to be developed. That's Xavier. I'll hook you up with him. I got his number and his info. I'll join you. I'll get you guys hooked up. We got Kendrick Barnes saying the Godfather. I don't know if he's talking to you or me. Plan ahead, Pete Scarpetti. And then we got Kendrick Barnes. I had overtime at Eaton Trailer. Burner caught fire cleaning a gas station. Pressure relief valve blew off like a shotgun. So he's had some things go on.
Hey, two things I don't want to forget about.
Mention Kendrick, I want to make an honorable mention of this. He posted he was using a backpack sprayer to spray sodium hydroxide or bleach or something like that. And I was just like, don't do that, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Two things I don't want to forget to mention. One thing, Giant brand pop-off valves have been failing left and right for the past 30 days. They are, see, the Chinese are sending us cheap stuff that's out of spec. And on Giant pressure relief valves, if you just bought one, watch it like a hawk, because the adjustment plug in the end of it can easily come vibrating out. Put a little bit of Loctite on it and it won't do that. But just
Jerry,
watch those Giant relief valves.
I believe he's talking about spend $3 to buy a whip, checks to protect yourself from high pressure connections. Hey, jumper hoses, Jerry. Do you ever like those Kevlar hoses for the jumpers, or do you not like them?
Well, if you've got equipment in a confined space like a box truck where you're up there up way too close and personal when you're going in there and doing stuff while the equipment is running, having a sleeve on a hose is a really good idea. Really good idea, because if it blows out while you're in there, you don't want to be up against the wall in a corner and it's spraying 8 gallons a minute at 200 degrees at you. You're in the wrong place for that to happen. Okay. So number one, double wire braid hoses or even jack hose. Jack hose is 3-wire braid rated for 8 to 10,000 PSI. It will cost you an extra $1 a foot, but $1 a foot is a lot cheaper than being down for a week because you're in the freaking hospital. There is that. Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Now
I never used those hoses, but I really liked them. I think it got down to the expense, and then I felt that it's like you're saying with the Chinese stuff. I used to swear by Goodyear, Jerry. I loved Goodyear. I would go to the Goodyear dealer here and I'd buy so much hose, and it was wonderful. I'd get it on the bolt and I'd cut it myself and do the whole 9 yards, make 200-foot sections. But I noticed the quality just went to crap, And then I thought, why am I paying this premium for this stuff? And I laugh sometimes, Jerry, because I see these guys, they post about, man, I want a hose that'll last a year. I'd like to get a good hose that would last 90 days. Well,
a heads up, the cheaper hose that's on the market right now is failing left and right. People are complaining that the cheap hoses are lasting 90 days, 120 days, 3 months. They're dragging it in half and blowing it out. Okay, stop buying the cheap hose. I've been using the I believe it's Spiroflex. I've been at 6,000 psi rated double wire hose. I don't let people have the single wire braid hose for 4,000 psi. I don't let them have it. I say, see you later. Okay, you're going to have double wire braid hose if you're using 4,000 psi cold, or I'll see you later. Bye-bye now. That's the way that goes. And that's the only safe way to do this. Hose is rated for the pressure before you drag it across the ground. If you're going to drag it across the ground, you don't use 4,000 psi rated hose at 4,000 psi. It's dumb. Stop it. Okay? If it's too light, be a bigger man. Hire somebody or whatever. That's all I'm saying. Let's move along.
I can tell you, Jerry, it's something else, man. You know what is sometimes funny about things is people will they'll talk about like how much money they made on this house wash or that house wash, and $1,000,
right,
7 minutes, but then they don't want to spend an extra couple bucks to have a good hose to be safe, or put the fuel cell on the truck to save a little time and save a little money. It's some of the crazy things. What are some of the what are the common things, Jerry, before we hang it up here? We're going to end this show tonight on time. We're right at 30-minute level, so we got a few more minutes left. Give me a cap on, just recap the thing, and maybe some guys we'll field some questions right now too. But what are like the top things? Is it the gas cans? Is it the hoses? Is it a combination?
Yeah, good question. Good question. Let me answer. So everybody, has this little bit of embarrassment over hoses. Everybody has this little embarrassment over chemicals. And you probably even have a little bit of embarrassment over the gasoline. But I want to talk about wiring. Okay? A lot of the worst fires have been caused by electrical issues. A lot of the most scary moments and the most damage to equipment has happened with electrical stuff. If you don't have a fuse on every circuit, learn this stuff right now. You need a really good battery cable to your starter motor, and you might not want to put a 200 amp doggone fusible link in there, without having a couple spares and whatever. But everything else that comes off of your battery, everything else, your charging system, if there's no fuse, and I've noticed on these Kohlers and Briggs and all these, that the 25 amp systems are usually coming with either a circuit breaker or a circuit breaker or a fuse, like on the Kohlers, 20 amp, 25 amp, they all have fuses on them. Okay. But the smaller ones, 15 amp and smaller, they don't have fuses. Clip that connector and put a fuse in line on those. If it's rated for 15 amps, put a 25 amp fuse on there. That'll protect your voltage regulator better. As a voltage regulator's failing, it might save your charging windings underneath the flywheel. So use a 20 or 25 amp fuse on that. And if the voltage regulator wants to burn, okay, let it blow the fuse and save the windings behind the flywheel. You don't want to have to do a $200 repair when all you need is a $39.50 doggone voltage regulator. Fuse everything. A control circuit going to a switch on your electric pump. Use a fuse. Put fuses on everything. Every loop for a smaller device should have a smaller fuse. Don't expect a 25 amp fuse to save a little 10 amp motor if you get a short circuit on that. Or the 15 amp switch. Don't use a 15 amp switch on a 25 amp device. Okay. And
Jerry, are you using your computer tonight or your phone?
My phone.
Using your phone? Dang it. I was going to send you this little device. On the picture, Xavier put up this little safety whip. I sent it to you. So maybe you want to look at it maybe you want to look at it afterwards. But
Oh, for the blown hoses?
he's got a little safety whip on there. If the
Yeah.
hose blows,
Yeah. Those
then
are good. And you can
they'll
buy them cheap.
catch. Well, I've got it up on I got the picture up there. Well, Jerry, I'm going to tell you something. I didn't think that we'd have the viewership on this thing. I'd love to do this. Okay, so next week, guys, we're going to talk about chemicals. And I'm going to bring some chemicals. Jerry, I'm going to bring some chemicals. And I'm going to show these guys these chemicals that work just as well. I can touch them on my hands. I can put them on my face, and they will clean just as well. People do not understand the chemistry. They don't understand why things work. The one thing I want to talk about too is I want to talk about federally regulated chemicals. 12.5, I will tell everybody in the industry, it is a federally regulated chemical, okay? Does that mean that you can't spray it? That's not what I'm telling you. Does it mean you can't possess it? That's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that in some states you could have a big problem with it. We've had guys shut down. It's closed down entire industries because if those states have spraying application licenses, they're going to have regulations on what you can spray and what you can't spray. And everybody needs to know that. Just because your state doesn't have any rules or regulations, it still doesn't mean you can't get in trouble for it. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And a lot of guys out there don't know.
Your insurance company might cancel you if you broke the dumbass rules on equipment safety, chemical safety. And one more thing before we go, I want to make sure that we mention this. If you don't have MSDS sheets on every 5-gallon and larger container that you're traveling down the road with, within reach from the driver's seat without unfastening your safety belt, you could be in trouble in front of the highway patrol.
Jerry, now this last picture I'm going to put up, you didn't cover it, but I'm going to let you cover it in closing. It's a funny picture. I'm going to go ahead and throw it up now, and you can enclose this in the time and tell people it's reality. This is really what causes a lot of accidents in.
Yeah, horseplay. Okay, straight up horseplay. You know, the vacuums that I sell are capable of sucking your stomach out of your mouth if you were to put that thing on your face. Some little kid could really, really hurt themselves badly. You know, the reason that a car wash will not allow you to have at a coin-op car wash more than 1200 PSI is because a little kid picked up a wand one time and blew his spinal cord out the back of his neck because he wanted to drink water. Horseplay is horrible. Horseplay is very bad. Chemicals burn people, pressure burns people, heat sends you to the hospital for another month. Okay? Spilled gasoline can put you in the grave, let alone burn you so bad that you're in the hospital for 2 months. Horseplay is bad. People that act like children should just stay clear of equipment. And the person that's in charge of the trailer that night is in charge of everything that goes wrong or everything that goes right. You better plan the outcome.
That's awesome, Jerry. Now I'm looking forward to it next week. I think we should get some really good photos of these guys that have done things. And you know, here's the thing, guys. All the other guys listening tonight that think, you know, it's not going to happen to me. I take my precautions. Accidents are accidents. When they happen, we always feel so stupid that we did it, but we did it. Something as dumb as you're pumping a pop-up sprayer and you think it's good because it's brand new. You put it together. Next thing you know, poof, the thing flies off the thing, and because you're not wearing the glasses, the chemical hits you right in the eye. We know Tony Shelton, blind for one simple little accident. You know, he didn't mean to do that. It just, you know, he grabbed the pump-up sprayer, boom, the thing popped off, sprayed him right in the face. Next thing you know, his eye's done.
That scar right there is a razor blade cut. I was cutting towards myself. Right as I was talking about, I shouldn't be doing this, it slipped and it almost cut a vein. I was explaining to somebody else what not to do right when it slipped. What a great moment that was. I will never, ever cut myself again.
Fortunately, those veins are pretty tough to cut.
Well,
No, they are. They're really
fault.
tough. They're really tough to cut, man. If you got good veins, they're tough. I'll tell you right now. I don't know if you well, you have one daughter. Did you get to go in when she was being born?
Yes.
Man,
I was in the room.
so you know how those scalpel scissors, how sharp they are, right?
Yeah.
Right? But
Yep.
when you take that umbilical cord and you go to cut it, it'll slip. It'll slip right out of there. I was like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? Is that thing is that tough? I mean, it's people don't realize how tough veins and stuff really are. But thank God you didn't cut it. You didn't cut a vein open, Jerry, on your wrist.
Right.
Been very easily. Plus, there's certain parts of your body, you cut that vein. What do you got? 7 minutes, you're gonna bleed out. I mean,
Right.
you don't apply pressure, 7 minutes, you're gonna bleed out. And I've done this stupid thing with the razor knife too. I cut my stomach one time wide open. Not gonna show that, guys, but
Well, thank you.
Cut myself wide open with that. All right, guys, pressurewasher.net. Be tuning in next week, guys. Thanks for coming out, Jerry. I appreciate it. Guys, check out all the free events. Register National Cleaning Expo. I am on a 1-month free commercial training. I'm doing it once every month till July 2022. We look forward to seeing you guys. We'll see you out on the road. Don't forget, Dallas is coming up, October in Orlando. Looking forward to seeing Pat in Kentucky this month at the end of the month. Make sure you check that out and get signed up for all those. Looking forward to seeing you there. Ron